What happened in the South African St. Mission's Church in 1906? Is it possible for someone to levitate? Can you invite demonic beings into your body? Today, we test the believability of the possession of Clara Germana Cele.
Welcome to Believing the Bizarre,
Where we dive into the unknown and the unusual.
Tell you whether or not we find it believable.
That is right. Happy Tuesday.
Yeah.
New week, new episode.
I am petrified. I am terrified. There's a lot of emotions going on right now.
Every now and then, Charlie and I give each other a little heads up. You know, like, hey, feel free to add some banter in here. Or, you know, let the jokes fly. This one, we have all the lights off in here, and I lit a candle.
It's getting late. We can see the highway. So at least I know there's other people in the world.
I can't see the highway.
I can see the highway.
I can see the highway illuminating your face just slightly over my very bright phone that I'm reading from.
This is going to be a spooky episode.
So yes, we have a nice possession case here. But before we get to that, let's thank our newest patrons. We got Duke Gaming, Melina, and Geralt of Rivia. I might be saying that right.
Sounds like royalty. Saying that wrong.
We appreciate you guys supporting the podcast. We really do appreciate you guys joining our Patreon. Well, we appreciate it, but we also hope you like all the bonus content that we have out there.
There's a lot out there.
There is a lot, let me tell you. And it's fun to do. We hope you enjoy it. Lots of good stuff over there. But with that said, let's get into this week's episode. All right, Charlie. So we've talked about this before. You've gone in detail about it, but I feel like it's good to use as a refresher. So I want to go over the stages or the levels of possession.
Yeah, for sure.
Just to kind of just put it back in everyone's mind. Also, just to throw it out there, sources include U.S. Ghost Adventures, Ranker, Newport, AI, Mysterious Universe, All That's Interesting, and Demonicpedia.
Some interesting sources you got there too.
Yeah. So let's go through the levels. You say there's 3, and I think there really is 3. They added a fourth one in, technically.
Okay.
It's like 2B.
I'm interested to see what this fourth new level is.
So we'll do it as a quiz. What's the first level, Charlie? You don't have to describe it, but just say what the first level is.
Infestation?
Infestation.
That's what I meant to say?
Yes.
I was close.
This is the haunted house, footsteps, voices, furnitures move, odors without a source.
That's a really important one, odors.
Yes.
Especially stinky ones.
So,
seriously, though.
This is when infestations affect property, objects, or animals, but not you.
Yeah. The dog in The Conjuring.
Yep. Second level, what is that?
Oppression.
Oppression.
Can I say that correctly?
Yeah.
Oppression.
Say it again.
Oppression.
Yes. So this is with physical attacks, sleep disturbances, regular nightmares, illnesses, depression, anxiety.
Yeah. This is like when
a lot of side effects from medication too, but
it's true. It's like when the entity is like targeting, bullying you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're picking on you. They already know that you're the one that they want.
Yeah, it's like, ooh.
They're going to draft you. But they don't want you to know about it.
Are you first round or?
Yeah, technically for them, okay. I guess. So this is the new one. Do you have a guess? It sounds like oppression and infestation. Infestation, oppression, and what sound?
Congregation?
Obsession.
Obsession.
As the name implies, at this stage, the afflicted person has a hard time functioning, being constantly preoccupied with thoughts of the demonic activity, taking over their life, and frequent thoughts of suicide as well. Sleep becomes impossible. So it's not being done to you. You've now internalized it, but it's not inside of you yet.
Okay, so that's interesting. I've not heard of that stage.
Yeah, and the fourth stage is
possession. The touchdown for the entity.
And this is what this source says. Contrary to popular belief, possession is not demons entering a person's body and taking over their soul. A person's free will is never removed, only severely compromised. In possession, a person is so physically, emotionally, mentally, and spiritually broken down by going through the other 3 stages that the demonic spirits are able to seize occasional control over that person's actions.
I mean, I kind of get that. definition?
It's kind of like, it's not when they take over. It's like when you are really broken down and they take over.
Yeah. But I think what they're saying is there's moments where you're not 100% taken, which fits what we've heard before.
Yeah, it's not like you're never you ever again. All right, so now that we have that under wraps and we're all caught up on the different levels.
Yeah, I also want to call my grandma right now. Just
let her know.
Can you do a Hail Mary for me or something?
There might be a Hail Mary happening right now. This is taking place during the Hall of Fame football game.
Different kind of Hail Mary.
Different kind of Hail Mary. All right, the possession of Clara Germana Cele. And just to be clear, this possession case is fairly well recorded, but it also takes place in the early 20th century.
Yeah, so
while my main resources that I used, that I listed off already, are websites and articles, it is believed that the majority of the original sourcing that was used to provide details for this, this possession came from journals and diary entries from the nuns and the priests at this church.
Man, I wish my back was not just like open to the elements like this.
The door?
Yeah.
If somebody opens the door, we will know. We left that light on in there.
Yeah, that's true. If someone opens the doorway, I'm gonna fall to the ground, and that's it.
It's just gonna be producer Ben coming by, be like, "Oh, I left something here."
that'd be so bad.
So, anyways, I just wanted to front load that. So it's like when we get to these details, you're like, "Well, how do we know that's what happened?" Well, you don't know anything that happened. Okay, we don't know anything.
Okay,
but this was recorded by people who were there.
This is in South Africa.
South Africa.
I'm always intrigued by things that happen in South Africa. I actually would love to visit there one day.
One of my heroes is from South Africa.
Yes, that's true. Yes,
I'm talking about Dave Matthews, not
Mandela.
No,
not him. Not that great leader.
Not
Chappie?
Tesla.
Tesla?
Yeah, the owner of Tesla.
Oh, Elon Musk.
Elon Musk.
Oh,
I believe he's from South Africa.
Yeah, he is.
He's not my hero.
No, okay, good. That's
I'm
good.
talking about David Matthews. So this takes place in Natal, South Africa, in 1906. Clara was a religious 16-year-old girl at this time and a very devout Christian. Clara went to school at St. Michael's Mission, and she was actually an orphan. We don't know what happened with the parents, but I don't know if she was dropped off at the church or how the church found her, but there were no parents involved.
Mm-hmm.
So she was essentially raised. She was immediately baptized as a baby.
Sure, yeah.
Newborn baby. She was baptized there as an infant, and she grew up in the church, basically raised by the nuns at St. Michael's Missions, which isn't just like the church you drive to and you sit in there and you're like, cool, and then you leave and you go watch football. This church has a kitchen, a dormitory, a school, a farm, a clinic. Like it's a whole thing.
It's almost like
a commune.
Yeah, it's almost like, gosh, like monks in England would have like their own civilization inside their own churches.
Sure. Just like, that's exactly what I was thinking.
Yep.
Yeah, just like that.
Yep.
So for the majority of Clara's life up until 1906, people would describe Clara as very kind, very generous, friendly. She abided by the church's doctrine, never caused any issues. Nothing at all seemed strange or off about her. She's a very typical 16-year-old girl, whatever that might mean.
Yeah, that's sketchy.
So that is why it was very strange when she started developing peculiar behavior, which a lot of other students and people were taking notice of. So what do I mean by peculiar behavior? Clara started acting out a bit, just causing some distractions and tantrums that seemed a little bit out of the ordinary. But then her peers started noticing her talking to entities that no one else could see. And there were these really, really low, whispered, hushed discussions.
It's a super bad sign.
But nonetheless, strange, and left everyone a little bit confused with what's going on. When confronted about these behaviors, Clara adamantly stated that she had tried to make a deal with Satan.
Oh my God.
She just came out and said it. And the nuns were like, Clara, you're not our first 16-year-old girl here. Stop being so dramatic. You're fine. You're just rebelling. That's what y'all do. Which, okay, that is so strange to me that no one took this admission seriously.
Yeah, especially in a church.
Well, yeah, exactly. What are your thoughts on that? Like, this isn't 2024.
Yeah.
And it's like,
it feels like a really steep jump from being a really nice girl to attempting to make a pact with the devil That's like to me, that's almost like jumping the shark immediately.
Yeah, and
they're like, Psh, yeah, right. Like, what?
I guess it just seems so out of character.
Yeah.
That they're just like, okay, she's acting out. Maybe she's not getting the attention. She's an orphan.
Mm-hmm.
Different. I mean, who knows what they were thinking? That's not documented. I have no idea. But regardless, it was kind of brushed aside, like that's how teenage girls be. Maybe. I don't know.
Can I ask this in the most respectful way? Is there a race factor here?
We get no information on race.
Okay.
I get no information.
Because South Africa at that time was a very racially divided country.
Okay. I believe she's white. But that's...
Okay. I was just curious if there was a factor there.
Yeah, I have nothing here to report on that. So her erratic and strange behavior only began to intensify. And it all came to a head on August 20th of 1906 when acting out and talking to unseen entities, Clara began tearing at her clothes and growling like an animal, which obviously is very bizarre and very much unlike her typical demeanor. And as this became more unhinged, so was her desperation kind of for like wanting help. Like she's not shying away necessarily at this point from like, hey, I think something is wrong. So like she's tearing at her shirt, she's speaking to people that no one can see. And there's one point where she's talking to something in the corner. No one else can see it, but she's having this conversation. And a nun walks in, and Clara makes eye contact with her. And in that moment, it was like a snap. Like Clara seemed to transition back to her normal self. And in a quiet voice, Clara said the following, quote, "Sister, please call Father Erasmus. I must confess and tell everything. But quick, or Satan will kill me. He has me in his power. Nothing is blessed with me. I have thrown away all the medals you have gave me." Unquote. So the nun was startled, to say the least, and she went away to go get Father Erasmus. And as she's walking away, and she's left the room, and there was no one else in the room, it was just her and at the time Clara, she heard from behind her Clara shrieking and yelling, quote, "You've betrayed me. You promised me days of glory, but now you treat me cruelly." Unquote. The next day, one nun wrote this about Clara's behavior, quote, "No animal had ever made such sounds. Neither the lions of East Africa nor the angry bulls. At times, it sounds like a herd of wild beasts, orchestrated by Satan, had formed a hellish choir." Unquote.
Wow. Just from her room or from her?
From her, but from her room. Yeah. As fear began rising in the students at the church, they started believing that this unseen entity that Claire was speaking to was, in fact, Satan himself. So people are starting to come around to the idea that perhaps something is going on here.
Yeah, I wonder if it's the screaming.
Yeah, maybe. Claire would end up coming forward and telling Father Erasmus that she was arguing with the demon that was inside of her. And Father Erasmus himself did believe that Clara appeared differently, and he said he felt a heavy presence with them in the room.
I know he talked about the top. Like, how can he know that? What did he actually say? But there's no like.
So that's me paraphrasing. It's okay. I don't have an exact quote, but it said that that's what their conversation was about.
They felt it though.
He felt something heavy in the room.
Yeah,
and she didn't quite look like herself, which could mean illness. Mean like anything, the droopy eyes, bags under your eyes, and just like
pale skin.
Yeah, exactly.
Could mean other things too.
So this lasted about a week or so. Of all this, everything that we've kind of talked about before has kind of happened during this week, which again is still wild to me. Like in 2024, I think there'd be people that'd be saying mental illness, and there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
I think that's there's more concern and more education and studying into mental illness now. So I think we're more understanding of it, even though I think there's still a lot to learn about mental illness. But I just cannot believe that they didn't immediately jump on this and be like, yep, possession, or yep, demonic.
Because of the church element. You would think they'd be way more open to it.
But maybe, you know what, if someone is, because you can comment on Spotify, people, you can comment directly to this episode on Spotify. I'm not of the church. Maybe they're more, it's like Satan and like a demon. A demon is such a high, and I don't mean high as in like good or praise. I mean high as intense.
Yeah.
It's such an intense thing that you don't jump to that conclusion.
Yeah.
Like you have hurdled, like it's not like you and me. Well, okay, me. It's not like me talking about demon where it's like demons terrify me, but I don't have a religious background, so it's like the way that a demon scares me is probably very different than the way a demon scares a religious person or a spiritual person. So maybe for me, with the context of the story, it's easy to go, sounds demonic. And we do that because of this podcast. But I wonder if you're of the church, this is the 1900s, you're like, that is like last resort. We need to know, guarantee this is what it is, because we don't mess with that stuff. Well, you know what I mean? What do you think about that?
I mean, they do that. In the church, there are like almost like layers or like rankings you have to go through to get approval to do exorcisms.
She's just an obsession right now.
Well,
we gotta wait.
They have to like do observations. Certain observations need to be met, and then there has to be distinct approval from the Vatican.
Right. I know they have to approve it, but at the same time, they're not even acknowledging this as like just now. They're like, hey, maybe. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like that's where I'm at. It's like it seems like it's not,
or maybe it's almost like denial. Like it couldn't be in our house. This isn't our house.
Yeah. No, we're all happy here, right?
Right. There's no girls trying to make pacts with the devil. Like that's not in our home.
Yeah. Like why?
Yeah.
We've given you so much.
Yeah.
Regardless, Clara's outbursts and strange behavior continued, and Clara continued trying to convince other students and nuns that something demonic was inside of her. A couple of nuns reported that, kind of while humoring these claims, that they attempted to put a little holy water on Clara, and they were shocked to discover that her skin would literally burn as soon as the water touched it.
That's some supernatural stuff.
Yes, and I only saw it in one source. I like to call out the stuff, that if I can't cross-check it. One source that I was reading said that they would do like a mini test with her. Like they'd have regular water and then they'd have holy water, and they wouldn't tell her which was which, and they would go by her reaction. Maybe she's just great at guessing. But
it's 50-50.
She was able to, well, it wasn't like this one, that one. I think it was a mixture of like, behind the back. And
gotcha.
They made it so that it'd be hard for her to tell. But if she was 100% accurate, every time it was the holy water that touched her, she had a visceral reaction to it.
That's almost impossible to just guess.
Yeah. She also violently lashed out when she came across any Bibles, crosses, or other sacred objects.
Which are
I assume was all the time.
Say they're abundant in that situation.
Literally all the time. According to reports, she was physically revolted by the sight or the feel of anything that the church had blessed. Other students claimed that when Clara went into this possession, this trance, that the only thing that they could do to snap her out of it was to spritz her with a little bit of the holy water, which again would burn her. To avoid these physical outbursts, the nuns were instructed to conceal these sacred objects and items from her sight, which is, that's taking a pretty big stance on the whole thing.
Yeah. I wonder how fast, like you said this took place in like a week, but like, I wonder how long she had been communing.
I think it depends how prevalent these outbursts were. Obviously it ramps up. Like day 5 is going to be worse than day 1.
Yeah.
But was it like a half hour? How much of this was happening alone when she wasn't around other people? I don't know. So there were 3 more very strange behaviors that Clara seemed to adopt during this time. You could almost call them abilities.
Okay.
3 of them. The first ability was speaking new languages. Languages that made no sense for Clara to be able to both learn, practice, and then I guess you could say perfect in such a short period of time as in a week. And it's not the stereotypical Latin. It's not like she's speaking in tongues or she just all of a sudden started speaking Latin. Although there was a source that I read that said that it was unknown languages.
Okay.
And it could fall under Latin as well. But the ones that I saw the most were she was speaking Polish, German, French, and Norwegian.
Wow.
Out of nowhere.
Out of nowhere.
They don't teach all of them. Obviously, YouTube.
So did the school teach some?
I don't know.
Okay.
They didn't teach all of these. Like this took everyone off guard. There wasn't any type of, well, in the 16 years, she could have taken this. I mean, this was completely out of left field and very strange. The second strange ability that Claire seemed to attain was clairvoyance. And so just as a refresher, clairvoyance is defined as the claimed ability to acquire information that would be considered impossible to get through scientifically proven sensations, thus classified as a perception or a sixth sense. So according to nuns, Clara began to detail aspects of their personal lives, the nuns, the students, things that she had no business knowing, memories that they had, things that they had never shared out of shame, embarrassing stories,
Really?
private stories, information about all of them. For instance, she looked at one nun and she told that nun that she knew that she had a child back in Germany where the nun was from and that she was a whore and that she would find herself in hell for abandoning the child.
Wow.
She told another nun that she was a thief and that she knew she was stealing from the church's treasury. And initially the nun denied it, said that she's not in the right state of mind and she's just saying mean things to hurt people. But when they actually went through and they checked the records and everything, this nun was actually stealing from the church. So she actually, not saying she did a good thing.
No.
Not saying she did a good thing.
Right. But she did out a thief.
In a roundabout way. In a roundabout way.
Well, actually, that gave me shivers. That's scary.
Yeah, no, it's like she's, at this point, how can you, she's like smiling when she's doing it.
Dude, I got full body chills.
Like she's like looking at them. It's like that, you can almost see it. It's that creepy scene where there's just like a bunch of nuns and it's just like, not to make it silly, but like in class where I'm not making eye contact with the teacher.
Mm-hmm.
They ask a question and if you make eye contact, they're going to call on you. And you're just like in this room with this woman that you think is possessed, this teenager. Mm-hmm. And all of a sudden her eyes just meet yours and she just smiles. And it's just creepy.
She spills your secret.
And she starts saying something and it's like in that pit in your chest, you're like, how does she know this?
Yeah.
Who told her? I didn't tell anyone. Obviously, the nun that was stealing probably didn't tell anyone anything.
Right.
And the nun that had a baby back in Germany, I mean,
that's probably a very well kept secret.
I would assume so. So it's very creepy.
Yeah.
It's just bouncing back between her normal self, concerned for her life, and then this very violent and sinister personality.
That's so scary.
And her third and final ability was kind of like the last straw. I'll say I think they're probably already at the breaking point.
I imagine. Yeah.
Like, we got to get this done. But her last ability, you can't fake. You can, we were talking about the languages. Maybe she was faking until you make it.
Yeah.
Clairvoyance, maybe you heard gossip or you've somehow read, snuck in someone's room.
Some way to figure it out somehow.
Snuck in someone's room and you read their journal or something like that. But this last ability, Clara began to levitate. And not once, randomly, or anything like that. It was reported that it was almost a daily occurrence at this point. One nun said that Clara completely defied the laws of gravity and floated 5 feet above her bed. One weird detail that is like, it's not hard to explain, but it's like, I don't like it. It's, when you're like floating, like imagine me floating right now.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And gravity is pulling my clothes down. So it's like I'm wearing a little bit of a baggier shirt. So as my body's levitating, my shirt be pulled down. Mm-hmm. The clothes didn't move.
Oh.
It was like you're frozen. It's like whatever, like there was no drooping of the clothes. It was all, it's like everything about you is like ice, like frozen, lifting. There's no clothes hanging, limp arms. Everything is like tight, tension. Even the clothing. Clothing doesn't move.
Because, it's not part of you, right? So you would imagine that would be affected.
Yeah, you would think the clothes would droop, because gravity's pulling your shirt down. It's like everything is just stuck. And for whatever reason, just that visual is just
very, and this would happen often.
Yes. Yes. So Father Erasmus recalled that Clara floated often 3 or 4 feet above the air, sometimes vertically and other times horizontal. And there is no explanation. Obviously, this is not acting out. No. There is no level of mental illness here that can do this.
No.
And along with everything else that was happening, it was clear that something needed to be done. And it was believed that Clara was possessed. So let's move to the exorcism. Charlie, we've talked about the Honey Island swamp monster and the Great Dismal Swamp, but you know what we haven't talked about yet?
What's that?
Swamp butt.
Swamp butt?
Swamp butt.
Tyler, I've never experienced said swamp butt.
Well, what are your secrets?
One word, my friend, MeUndies. MeUndies offers soft, quick-dry, anti-odor underwear that you'll never want to take off.
MeUndies micromodal fabric is incredibly breathable and comfortable But listen, we're not even talking about the most fun part yet.
Are you talking about designs?
Absolutely. From camping and pizza to galaxies and dinosaurs, they have tons of fun and unique designs so you can wear your MeUndies with flair.
Also, they are responsibly sourced and only work with partners that truly care for their workers. Tyler, how would you describe your MeUndies?
Well, let me tell you, and this might not make sense, but MeUndies combines the feeling of having great support while also being like so soft and breathable that it feels like you're not even wearing anything.
I literally told my wife, I said, Stephanie, throw away all my non-MeUndies underwear, and I don't regret that.
Y'all, we're in the full swing of summer. Be prepared with MeUndies.
Get 20% off your first order plus free shipping at MeUndies.com/bizarre.
That is MeUndies.com/bizarre for 20% off plus free shipping.
MeUndies, comfort from the outside in.
So at this point, the priests and nuns began deliberating on having the exorcism. Urgency was the utmost priority because it had been, a decent amount of time that this strange behavior was from Clara was happening.
Yeah.
And she was also like visibly deteriorating.
It's also not just weird behavior. This is crazy stuff.
No, there's many, many layers. This is a 7-layer dip going on here. It's a lot going on. So beyond the acting out and the strange abilities, Clara also grew more violent. As time went on, she began possessing what was considered inhuman strength, overpowering even the strongest priest when they attempted to hold her back during these outbursts. Eventually, Clara was restrained to a bed, contorting in different ways. Father Erasmus approached Clara and asked what entity was inside of her. In a deep, guttural voice that Father Erasmus could not believe would belong to sweet Clara, she exclaimed, quote,
"I am Satan. Our king is Lucifer. His power is great. He has in his service countless subjects. You see one here before you. We were rushed from heaven to hell, that our sins would not have been as huge as those of many men. His fire does not emit light, does not look in any way to your fire. Despite the darkness, we see each other. Many spirits roam around the world to seduce men. We believe in God, and we hate him."
Unquote.
Ooh.
Any thoughts with that?
I don't fucking like that. Oh, man. She said, I am
Satan.
I don't like to say it. King is Lucifer.
Yeah.
Those are not the same things?
It seems, we'll talk about the discussion.
Okay.
It seems like when we talk about like the Ouija board demon,
Yeah.
like ability to lie, pretending to be like taking on like titles, like who knows? If you believe that she's possessed, I guess whether or not you believe it is Satan is one thing, but it could just be a demon.
Yeah, but it's weird that it like outed itself immediately.
I mean, it could be a straight flex, It's like I am the, it's here's the name I'm that.
I'm LeBron James.
Yes.
King is LeBron James.
Same thing.
Yeah.
Same exact.
I am. Yeah, I got you.
So the church decided that enough was enough. It was time to take action. So 2 Roman Catholic priests, Reverend Mansueti, who was director of St. Michael's Mission, and Father Erasmus Horner, who Clara wanted to confess this to, and she's the one that he reached out about, or the one that she had reached out to. They were the 2 that were appointed to perform the exorcism on Clara. The exorcism began on September 10th and lasted 2 grueling days, like from dawn until the very, very end of the night.
Like the midnight of the last night.
Yes. On the first day, Reverend Mansueti and Father Erasmus gave confession and purged their sins with the mindset of if we say it and we purge it, then it can't use anything against us.
Mm-hmm.
They probably saw what happened with the nuns, and they don't need that type of doubt and
it's like
shame.
Man, so it's like I beat off in the bushes.
They're like, all right, we'll talk about that later. We got some stuff going on. So they did that. They purged their sins. They stood before Clara and recited the litanies of the saints, the Lord's Prayer, and Psalm 53. According to reports at the time, the exorcism took place in front of 170 people, with the priests.
They brought the whole school?
Everyone.
They brought everyone in? They brought the kindergartners
They
in?
say hands-on learning.
Yeah.
It's a tactile, tangible.
Wow.
I mean, why? It can't teach you about it. If If you have the opportunity to see it,
Yeah.
we got visual learners.
It's almost like the operating room with the glass.
Yes, exactly. It's like, what better form of education is there than doing the damn thing?
They brought the...
I mean, it was probably mostly adults. I don't think I would bet a lot of money
Yeah, you're probably right.
that there were no children.
It's a lot of adults, though.
They have, I mean, it's a commune, basically.
That's true.
It's
That's
a lot
true.
of people. Maybe they sent invites. I don't know. You've been invited too. So there's 170 people. They start the exorcism in the morning, stopping only briefly for lunch breaks before getting back to it until the very, very end of the night. When Clara was asked explicitly who was residing inside the body by Father Erasmus, Clara bared her teeth and she shouted,
The girl made a deal with me. I am Satan, and this girl called me forth from hell to serve her dark purpose.
unquote. Holy water was used as a temporary solution to diminish the outbursts, but the minute that another biblical artifact or an item was placed near her, the rage instantaneously came back. One witness claimed that during the exorcism, Clara's body lost all of its rigidity and it became rubbery, almost like a serpent. And it seemed like she was like a snake, like trying to slither her way and wiggle out of the restraints. In fact, they claimed that her neck elongated and her spine bent in ways that they thought for sure would make it snap. During an altercation, when a nun was trying to feed Clara, they're trying to, they're trying to do what they can for Clara despite the situation that's happening. When she got close enough to feed her a little bit, Clara lunged her head and bit the nun on her arm. The nun yelped and looked down, and there were teeth marks. And the teeth marks that were left on her arm resembled those of snake's fangs.
Oh my gosh.
Another witness said that when Clara was approached with a cross, it flew across the room, smacked into the wall, and shattered into tiny wooden fragments. On the second morning, the rites were given again, with the possessing demon finally departing Clara's body after telling the priests that it would signify its exit with an act of levitation. So for the final time, Clara rose 5 feet into the air, as she had done before. And again, just as a reminder, this is in front of 170 people. She rises up 4 or 5 feet or so, and she falls back down, and her body finally seems to release. Like tension is finally lost. Her limbs ease down, and her chest, which was violently jerking and breathing before, slowly was rising and falling with each gentle breath. Witnesses also claim that there was a really foul stench in the chapel as soon as this happened. The priests then claimed that Clara had been cleared of the devil's influence. So in the aftermath, witnesses claimed that after this possession, she was still able to converse and understand multiple languages.
Well, it didn't leave her?
Isn't that interesting?
Yes.
What do you think about that?
I mean, I've heard of like brain injuries where like people like pick up skills that they never had.
It seems like a weird skill to learn. Like, I feel like physically, like if I had a brain injury and the next thing I could do, I'd throw left-handed. Like throw as well left-handed as I do right-handed.
Yeah.
I feel like that's like already inside of you. It's like a physically learned thing.
Yeah. But this
to be able to speak.
Yeah, you got to learn those verbs, those adjectives.
Yeah, like that. I feel like that's not just like built in.
Right.
Like you're not born with that innate
language
ability. You
That's
know what
very strange.
It's like it was like a parting gift.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's almost like you remember I was there.
My bad. Like I'll give you this.
Yeah.
One source that I can't remember which source it was. One of them I read was like, this is actually pretty typical among possessed people.
I've never heard of
this. Yeah, I know, but apparently what they're claiming is that after you're possessed, it's probably more so the Latin, like you're used to hearing in exorcisms where they're shouting, certain things like that. Apparently, according to one of the sources, when the possession's done, it's common for these people to retain that.
Ooh.
Now she can't levitate.
Right.
She can't
keep
fly
that one.
anymore, and she doesn't have the superhuman strength.
Yeah.
She's actually really ill after this for a long time. Like there's a
Yeah.
long period where her body is just.
There's so much going on.
That's got to feel like being hit by a truck.
Now, I wonder if I don't know if you're going to answer this, but did she ever like explain what, on her end, like what she was doing?
I'm going to talk about it, but I don't have an answer. So
Okay.
it's a little bit of a bust. I apologize.
That's her.
So she came to, she can still speak languages, but it was just this moment of relief. Like her whole body just kind of like just a big sigh, just like the tension was gone. They gave her some clothes to put on, and she felt very badly about this. She was embarrassed. She felt shame. She took it on her chin, kind of all the behavior.
Yeah.
Like she didn't shy away from it. She didn't hide away from the church. She didn't try running away from the church. She really wanted to be proactive about apologizing, seeking forgiveness, and dedicating her life to humble pursuits. Like it was, I know I brought this upon myself. I brought this upon this church. This was my bad, and I'm going to dedicate my life to being the best that I can be and doing whatever I can to make things better.
Well, that's a really good after effect.
Yeah. So a few months later, Father Erasmus left the mission to travel elsewhere in South Africa, but said, hey, I'll be back. I got some probably mission work. It didn't say explicitly what he was doing. Also, to answer your question explicitly, she never went into details what her deal was.
Okay.
She was willing to be honest about the mistakes, owning the mistakes, and doing everything that she could to make up for her mistakes. But she never went into details about what her deal was, what contract she made. And I think because of that, it was noted that the nuns kept an eye on her. It was kind of like, did you sell your soul? Did you, like, what were you supposed to get? What did you offer this thing? Like, it's gone. It left. We saw it leave. And she seems to be getting better, but it's kind of like, we don't know. You're not telling us.
The fullest extent is not out there.
We don't know. So time goes by. Claire's back to good spirits. She seems healthy, but it and this is a very weird detail because this is, I don't know if this is I wouldn't notice this, but I guess I'm only around certain people every single day. People started acknowledging that she seemed more healthy than she ever had been.
Oh.
Like not like she got back to normal status quo. Like she looked healthier. She looked more vibrant than ever and very happy. Like she was excited to do her duties for the church. It was almost like a pendulum swing. Like if where she started this episode was in the middle and then it swings to the left when she's possessed, it like swung past the right. It was
very
like,
strange.
Like even like her face looked more flush, like her eyes looked more vibrant. Like it looked like it was like beyond healthy, very, very gleeful, which the nuns were like, this is great. This is awesome. Until one night, a year later in 1907, a nun caught something.
Uh-oh.
And it seemed small, very, very small. This little thing that she wondered, did I actually see that? Did I actually hear that? Did this actually happen? But while in a room with Clara, the nun claimed that she heard a tiny, small scream escape Clara's lips.
Oh.
It was incredibly faint, but it was alarming and somehow familiar and strange.
Man, I got full body chills.
Now, the nuns were hesitant to jump back to possession because we already kind of explained, or we put our theory on that they don't want to just jump to it. And she looks good. She looks healthy.
This does make sense.
She's vibrant. She's
There's no
gleeful.
outbursts or anything.
She's
right?
excited. No, she's excited to be doing this work. She's doing all of her duty. She's helping the children.
Yeah.
But it's like, okay, she told the other nuns about what she heard, and they were like, okay, she looks good. It's been a year. Let's keep an eye on her. But, then the next night, a nun caught Clara making an animalistic grunt when Clara thought that no one else was watching her.
Oh.
So a few nights later, they were like, okay, we need to check this out. We need to see what's going on. So a nun entered Clara's room and found her levitating. Her head was thrown back, and her limbs and neck appeared to be elongated, and her veins were popping out. Clara turned her head slowly over the nun and grinned.
Oh my God.
Immediately, the nuns reached out to Father Erasmus again, and as soon as he could, he arrived back at St. Michael's mission so that he and Reverend Mansueti could again perform an exorcism. When it happened, Clara smiled up at them, encouraging. Again, gleeful, happy. Now, Father Mansuet took this as, okay, there is some semblance of Clara that is still in this body. She's still there, and she is happy to see us. She wants us to be here. She wants us to help her, and that's what we're going to do. So he smiled at her, and he reached out to touch her shoulder. And in a flash, Clara's face contorted, and she reached up and grabbed him by his stole, which is that fabric, the white fabric around the neck, and she twisted it, and she began to choke him. And her laughs rang out through the chapel as Father Mansuet struggled to breathe and break her grasp. His face turned blue, and then he sank to his knees. Then Father Erasmus ran over and dumped a container of holy water on Clara. Clara screamed and let go of Father Mansuet. For 10 days, Father Mansuet, Father Erasmus, and the nuns prayed over Clara's body. Finally, the evil inside of Clara relinquished her body one more time, left, and the same stench, the rotting meat smell that they smelled the first time happened again. And slowly, Clara became her normal self again.
But did she, though?
Well, so I heard multiple different endings. I heard an ending that she disappeared, that she left the church.
Yeah.
She didn't want to be a burden, so she left, and we have no idea what happened to her. And I saw another report that she actually died from heart failure 6 years later in 1912. 6 years later from the original incident.
Okay, so that's so young.
So there's no documentary report that I could find about what happened to her.
So we don't know after that.
We don't know.
That's terrifying. That is, oh my God.
So that is the possession and exorcism of Clara Germana Cele. Let's talk about it in the discussion. All right, Charlie. I have done a fair amount of talk, as the presenter normally does. The discussion's a little bit of a baton passing.
Oh my gosh.
It's tough because this isn't like, sometimes we're like, what is this thing?
Yeah.
And sometimes we're like, did this really happen? I'm not saying that we can have that discussion.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, but it's almost like traditional haunting where it's like, yeah, surface level is kind of what you get.
Yeah.
What details stood out to you? What thoughts do you have? Where are you at with this possession story for Clara?
Let's start from the beginning, right? This girl who is well liked, she's doing good work in the church.
Literally raised in the church. Like
Yeah.
she's kind of on that Anakin, like,
Yes.
like there was no father. I don't know. She just was there,
Yeah.
baptized, and grew up in the church.
Yeah. And then she made a deal. She said
Apparently, and we'll never know what it was.
No.
We'll never know.
It's frightening. It's scary. She's becoming, not even slowly, she's becoming engulfed in this entity. And it's almost like we talked about at the beginning, where possession is not necessarily the entity taking complete control all the time. And there are those moments where Clara is asking for help, begging for help.
Yeah, well, because she did it. You know what I mean? It's like, it's one thing if you don't know what's happening and it's random and it's like a haunted house. Like no one, well, I don't want to say no one. Most people don't ask for a haunted house.
Right.
It's, you move into a house that you think is normal, and you start observing things, and then you start making guesses and hypotheses based on what you're observing. She bought a haunted house, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like she went out of her way to try and make this deal.
Yeah.
So anything after, like, I think that's why she was in immediate alert mode. It's like, oh, this is happening.
I just can't imagine what good she expected from this deal.
Probably some type of power. I mean, 16 is a hard time.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of things going on. We don't know what her life was
It
truly
could have been
like.
something terrible going on in the church. We don't know.
And everything said about her is an outside perspective.
Yeah.
She was so kind. She was gentle. She was
Which is
happy.
always that 20/20 hindsight.
Yeah, like you don't. And I'm not saying she wasn't those things. I mean, because when it was done, she went back to being friendly for a while. But I don't know what would have caused her to make this deal and what was said. But it's like, if I was ever possessed, which I hope never ever happens.
Right, me too.
This would be my biggest fear, is that it's not actually gone.
Yeah.
It's like,
that's so scary. It's like the end of the movie, and they like set up the sequel, but you're living the sequel.
Yeah, you didn't watch. Did you when your wife did Imaginary? Did you watch Imaginary?
No, I did not.
Well, then I can't make this reference. It's the story element is, and I tried to play it off. I hope I did a decent job. When you think, I love when a horror movie makes you think it's over.
Yeah.
The sun comes
I thought
up,
it was over.
You hear the music, and it's become more cliche over the last probably 20, 25 years.
Yeah.
But when you think it's over, and then it's like the killer makes that last lunge,
Yeah.
or spoiler alert, if you haven't seen Imaginary and you want to, skip forward like 2 times. But Imaginary, you think it's over and they're happy, but she's still in this imaginary world. She thinks it's all good, but then you see that one thing that's off, and all of a sudden the world melts, and she's still there.
Yeah.
Like as a consumer of horror, I love it. But this is real life. Like this isn't a scary story in a book. This is someone's real life, and that's like, I mean, with anything, it's like, do you know if it's a health issue, if it's a real person, a stalker, and they're like restraining order. It's like, are they actually that fear of, am I actually safe?
Yeah.
You move away from a stalker. Are you actually safe? You survive cancer. Will it ever come back?
Right. How long will I be in remission for?
These, like, that fear of like, is the thing actually done? I mean, the paranormal, like that's scary in the real world with, I don't want to say normal issues, but
typical everyday life issues.
Things that everyday people deal with.
Yeah.
When it comes to paranormal, which we know even less about.
Right. And any expert that says they're an expert, you really question.
You're more well-read, and you would question.
There's no doctors for this.
And also, like, the people, like those nuns.
Yeah.
Like,
imagine if they hadn't caught those signs.
Yeah. Dude, okay. Imagine if, okay, I'll do it again. I'll put myself out there. Imagine I was possessed. All right. Not now. Before.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And you can be very honest with me. If I was possessed and there was an exorcism and I was fine, how long would it take for you to feel comfortable to be in a room with me like this? Ever?
Never.
You know what I mean?
I love you, but never.
Yeah, I don't blame you. That's what I mean. It's like the second guessing is like
I'd be like, Ben, you coming to recording tonight? Like,
yeah, with your gun? I do this weird thing where I have my gun and my shotgun and my baseball bat with me at all times.
Just gotta have it.
It's just a comfort thing. Little thing we do. But that's a fact. And she literally, they dealt with that in a year. And just like, imagine being that nun that heard that tiny scream and just being like, I almost like if I say something out loud, I'm validating it.
Yeah.
It's almost like I don't want to say it because then it's almost not real if I don't say it.
She's like that Jordan Peele, just like, fuck.
Yeah, it's no good. And then the nun that walks in and sees
the imagery is insanely scary in this whole story. Imagine, I wouldn't be right.
The snake body and the elongation of the arms and stuff is just, it's so scary.
And also there's like a whole other level because this is completely black in here. This is so scary.
Oh, how we're recording right now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then this is just the discussion, but geez.
I know I got my old glasses on. I can't see shit, so I'm just chilling in the dark.
They're making fun shadows with your eyes.
Are they?
Yeah.
Yeah. So we do the believability scale for if somehow this is the first episode you're listening to. First of all, thank you.
Bravo.
Appreciate you listening. But we have the believability scale, which goes from believable to viable to skeptical to unbelievable. Believable typically being we believe the paranormal aspect of it. Unbelievable typically being that we think there's some other explanation for what's going down. But before we get to that, are there any other details, thoughts, ideas, anything like that?
The only other thought I do have is that this does take place in like 1906.
1906 in South Africa.
South Africa. So only we really have to talk about this is the recordings of the nuns.
From journals, diaries, things like that, passing down, discussion.
Yeah. And also probably like real like Vatican permissions.
Right? Yeah. It didn't say they asked the Vatican, by the way. Like it was...
They're like, we gotta do this underground.
No, I can't tell you that they did that. I believe that they did that, but I'd
imagine, but we don't know. It might happen so quick. They're just like, F the permission. We got to do it. Yeah. And Mansueti is a terrible name.
Mansueti?
Yeah.
It's not spelled the way you would think, and I could be saying it a little wrong. Well, it could be Mansueti.
Okay. Just that was a
Mansueti.
Passing thought I had.
Okay.
Anything to get off the thought of this terrible story. Jeez.
This is literally one of those episodes. Like we really do this. Like, hey, should I be making jokes? Or I told Charlie, I'm like, I'm glad we're doing this other thing for Patreon first.
Yeah.
because I want to
It
be
helps set
dark
the mood.
in here.
Helps
Yeah,
set the mood.
it's not often that we do this,
Yeah.
which makes it more fun.
This is just a heavy one. Really, really incredible story, though.
I had a different topic last night. I changed this last night because I caught wind of this story.
Yeah.
I saw an article and I started reading it, and I'm like, done. Like, I did this with the alien something.
You did.
It was like I had it the night before. Every now and then I'll feel compelled, and I'll just do all the notes in a day.
Yeah, it's all right to do that because this is really interesting. Crazy story.
I'm not a religious person, but these are the stories that scare me the most. And
this is frightening.
Say it a million times. I know if you listen to us, religiously, you know that you're probably sick of hearing us say this, but it's the intent.
Yeah.
It's intention. These things are evil.
The smiling.
It's not.
Smiling with the distortion of the body is so scary to me.
It's torment. It's not a Bigfoot that just is an animalistic.
Yeah.
Or, if maybe you think Bigfoot's not animalistic. It's not like a chupacabra. It's not like Loch Ness Monster. Even a leopard. I'm going to kill you because I'm hungry to survive. And that's just like, hey, I'm doing what I have to do to survive. It's like, this is intentionally evil, torture. Aliens can dip into that if that's the way you view aliens.
Yeah.
But this stuff scares me so much.
Think about this really quick. I don't want to dwell on this too long because I don't like the idea. She was locked in her body for a year. Imagine if this thing went back to its room every night into this levitation thing.
Oh,
she was locked in there the whole time.
You know what? Okay, this is worth talking about. Did she know?
Did who know?
Clara, the second time. The first time, she made the deal, and she's telling people that this is actually freaking me out. I actually don't like this.
Okay.
The first time she knew, and she was telling people, and she was trying to get help. The second time, it feels like it's all deceit. Did it ever actually leave? Like it did. They felt it. The stench.
Yeah.
House. It's like, because it's like, okay. When in the first time you can see the change. It's like character 1, character 2. Clara is helping us do this, and Clara is telling us that something's wrong, and then flip, the possessed her is biting people and levitating. But Clara was telling them something was wrong.
Yes.
The second time it was a secret.
Yeah.
Was it ever? I mean,
I don't think it was. I think that either that same night or very shortly after, it came back and said, "You're mine," and it just
that's why
took her.
And then you think back, and that's why the overly healthy, overly vibrant is so like. What if that's what she wanted?
Yeah,
maybe they didn't have words for this. Maybe she was chronically ill or something. Like some type of injury that just wasn't discussed.
Right,
and she just wished for to be healthy, healthy, and they're like more than healthy. But the fact that it was like hidden the second time is actually a whole other creep factor. Because then it's like, you can trust the first Clara.
Scary. Yeah.
You can't because she made the deal, but everyone makes mistakes. But she was trying to warn them. Yeah. The second time, it was like the detail of like, she heard a grunt when she thought no one else was looking at her. It's like trying to contain it, trying to hide it for as long as she can.
And also, like, that's why I didn't tell what the deal was.
That's right.
Yeah.
I don't like that.
Okay. All right.
So on our believability scale, where do you put the possession of Clara?
It's hard. It's harder because this is in the past, way in the past. Not really a lot of recording things. Everyone is a little bit biased in the fact that they are very religious.
It is a church.
It is a church.
It is a church.
But also the fact that they almost didn't believe her for so long when it was like until it was like in their face.
Yeah.
Makes it go up really high for me. And also the amount of witnesses. Is that 170 people?
Yeah.
Yeah, I go believable.
This is, as a non-religious person, this is very hard for me.
Yes, it is.
I mean, it is. It is. I was gonna say it could be something that we call a demon that isn't quite the religious sense of a demon, but literally that's what it's.
That's what it said.
That's what it said. It's tough because my brain says skeptical, but my goosebumps say believable.
Yeah, exactly.
Skeptical in that I don't. You
don't necessarily believe everything.
It's hard for me to believe in demon without believing in the whole thing, and I guess that doesn't necessarily mean that that's how it has to be. This is a good time to say I'm agnostic, not atheist. This would be a good story to tell someone who's like 100% atheist, and I'd love to hear their opinions. Not like the debates you hear now where you're like, ready to shoot someone down.
I would like to hear their
politics.
arguments against like what people like.
I think they probably would go with the bias. That's what they grew up believing. Like those are the enemies in the church world. You know?
Yeah.
And but it's just like some of the stuff. The levitating is the one thing that's hard to pass off beyond mental illness.
I agree.
Just like
well, also the language.
That could, maybe
that's why she kept the language.
Yes.
Yeah,
I know, dude. It's such a spy. Like we found the spy. It's so scary. It's so scary because it really like even the narrative you follow makes it seem like everything's fine. It's like even the narrative tricks itself.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. In the telling of it, I'm gonna go viable with a very hard asterisk on. I have no idea how to explain the levitating.
Yeah,
it's a personal thing for myself that I'll have to work through one day. But that's where I'm at for the time being. All right. Thank you so much for listening to this episode. We've turned the lights back on.
We had to.
The lights are back on. It's not, I wouldn't call us scary. I don't think our podcast is that scary. I think we have moments of horror. It's like if we're a season, like a TV show season, and there's like 24 episodes in a season, I feel like 3 of them catch you off guard.
Yeah, I think this is definitely one. This was hard for me to sit through. I just had to listen.
It's funny too, because like I feel like we try to be humorous. We try to make the show funny. We enjoy being funny, and hope you guys enjoy us trying to be funny at least. But it's also like when you're scared, you and I have the same mechanism of trying to bring humor into it. But it's also like the respect for the episode, where it's like we both try in those moments to not make jokes.
Yeah, I made a joke. I'm probably going to cut it, but I was like, I need to focus here.
Yeah, no, I understand. I do the same thing when I'm on that side. So I want to say this would be a good episode to listen to in the dark, but you guys already listened to it if you heard this. So,
you already know the secrets.
You already know the secrets, but I hope you enjoyed it. Charlie's episode is next week, but I'm assuming we'll get back to some more regular,
next week is going to be
stuff.
That's going to be a listener.
Awesome. We'll make fun of some other people's stuff.
That's right. Thank God.
Not make fun of. Y'all know what I mean.
Yeah.
But we appreciate you listening. If you like the podcast and you're on Apple, you can leave a 5-star review over the whole podcast and let us know your thoughts. If you're listening on Spotify, you can leave a comment on every single episode, every single one, including this one.
Wow.
And you really should now. I think Spotify finally updated. Ben could see comments like 2 weeks ago. I just got it a few weeks ago or a few days ago. And now you say you can see comments. I
finally have them. I can finally see them.
Okay, so you should be able to leave comments back on Spotify. So we like to read a couple from our last episode, which was the Bermuda Triangle.
Oh, yeah.
Not that scary at all. Brandon says, I was going to recommend this podcast, but then I heard Tyler say Jaws isn't a horror movie. What is it then? And let me just say fair. I did comment on here because we can do that now. We can reply on here. We'll try to start doing that as they come in. I rebuke the fact that people say it's a top horror movie. Like there are lists that say it's a top 1 or 2 horror movie, and I disagree unless
I still have not seen it. So Stephanie, my wife, saw it, and she thought the shark made it out at the end, which I think is very funny.
Alexandria, I think there's a lot. You're missing some vowels, but I think that's what it is. Alexandria says, it makes me so happy to know that I wasn't the only one who looked forward to the Twilight Zone Marathon New Year's Eve.
Absolutely.
Best day of the year.
Absolutely.
Anthony says, great episode, guys. Now the only thing to fear on a cruise are the bathrooms.
Listen.
You could probably speak to that.
They're small. They're very small for small people. I had a hard time.
Molly says, honestly, this episode was so freaking good. Well done. Clapping hands. I feel like for how well known the Bermuda Triangle is, not many people know about Flight 19. Nice to hear you guys talk about it.
You made that point in the episode, which I think is probably fair.
Tyler Wright, what's up, Tyler? Said, sounds like Tyler just admitted Jaws is a scary movie. About time. Aurora says, love the episode. As someone who studied nautical science and has been out to sea, I have to say I personally don't think there's anything special about the Bermuda Triangle, but the stories are great. Depending on the damage of the sinking ship can take anything from a few seconds to a few days, so a ship disappearing in 16 minutes is plausible. So many ships disappear every year without wreckage. Also, the Mariana Trench is in Asia.
Well, now we learned something new, so that's good.
I'd love to hear more ocean stories. I feel like that's a Charlie thing. Not necessarily, but
No.
I don't lean towards the water, ocean.
I
things.
like the water. I enjoy the water.
I lean toward the woods. I like
That's
stuff
true.
that takes place in camping and woods.
I
And
get sweaty in the woods. Anyway, if you enjoyed this story and you want to hear more stuff that we've done,
More.
if you've caught up on the episodes,
up.
we've got a lot going on Patreon. You talked about the
Oh, yeah.
top. Something that just came out was theatrical readings.
Yes.
It came out only a couple days ago.
Happens twice a year.
Yeah.
They're long form fictional stories, highly edited,
Highly edited.
sound effects, music.
I put a lot in there.
Are you a big fan of No Sleep? I don't.
Yeah, I like No Sleep.
We're big fans of the No Sleep podcast, and when we were thinking of content we want to put on Patreon, even though this wasn't one of the first things we did, it was included, but it was one of the first things we thought of as an ode to them. So if you like the fictional, scary stories, that's there.
Yeah, and this last story was read by Isaac from Hidden in the Shadows.
Isaac in the Shadows. Shout out Isaac. But there's quizzes, fun segments, games. We watch horror movies. We do monthly chats.
I love the quizzes attached to the episodes.
We get quizzed on our old episodes.
Yeah, those are fun.
Lots of stuff. If you're, you get merch and pins and stuff. A lot of stuff happening on Patreon. So if you're all caught up and you want a little bit more, make sure to go check that out. So thank you so much for listening to the podcast. That is thoroughly freaked out and very happy that the lights are back on. We appreciate you. As always, I'm Tyler.
And I'm Charlie.
And catch us next week on Believing the Bizarre.
A podcast as bizarre as you are.